Okay, in continuing working with input and dynamic text, we've already set up our game to have the different screens. The first intro screen that goes from frame 1 to 100 that has the animated title and a button that jumps them to the next screen, which is located at frame 120. And we're going to have them jump to not frame 120, but the actual frame label in case we ever move this. And then that way that frame label is always going to work. And then after they input their name, they're going to hit instructions and it's going to come over here to the instructions screen. And we have some dynamic text here where we're going to give them the instructions, but we're also going to reference them by their username that they just gave us on the previous screen. And then when they click play now, they're going to go to our actual game that's not totally done here, but you get the idea. So we need to start adding this action script. We have the action script on the 100th frame after our intro. That is going to say, okay, at this particular point in time, it needs to stop and wait for the user to do something. And what we want them to do is click the start button. So we have the instance name that we gave this start button of start_btn. And then up here it says, when the start button is clicked, perform this function, which is click to go to and stop at a frame. So it's going to click and go to whatever frame I say, and it's going to stop there. So it's going to go to and stop at the input name screen, and this is the actual frame label that I created at this screen frame. Okay, so we need to start adding the script to make this function. So the first thing we need to do is making sure you open up your actions panel, go to window, and then go to actions or hit F9 on your keyboard. I like to put mine up here so I can kind of see all these pieces together. And the first thing we're going to do is type var for variable, and then do lowercase my, and then capital for the N name, no spaces, a colon, and string. You're basically saying that it's going to expect a string. This is a type of data. So it's not expecting, numbers, or it's not expecting, mouse clicks or any other kind of event. It's going to be looking for a string of text. So we'll go ahead and hit equal, and then we need to put quote, quote, and then a semicolon. So the punctuation, capitalization, spacing, everything matters. It has to be exactly perfect here. So make sure that you go through this with a fine-tooth comb. So I'm going to hit enter a couple of times because I like to separate them. And then we're going to make sure that the instructions button functions. So we need to reference it in code via its instance name. Sorry. So this is instructions_btn. So coming back over here, we're going to type instructions_btn dot add event listener, and then a parenthesis and mouse event dot all uppercase click, and then FL click to go to and stop at frame. Okay, so this is the second time that I've actually used that function. If I come back over here, you can see it's FL click to go to and stop at frame, and it's going to get confused if they both have the exact same name. So over here, where was I adding that? Oops, I was adding it to the wrong place. See, I can do it too. So I'm going to go back up here where it should go and paste that information. So you only want those little A's for ActionScript to be on the actions layer, and you want the actions to be at the very top. All right, so now that we fixed that, this can't have the exact same function name, so I'm going to put _2 because this is the second time that I have had to use that. And then I'm going to put a semicolon to end that statement. All right, so let's define that function. So we've said this is the function name, FL underscore, and this should say click. I thought I typed that. Click to go to and stop at frame _2. So we want to have that here as well. So this is where we kind of are defining that function. So what should happen when it hears the click and it tries to run that function. So we're going to put a parenthesis and then perform this event, mouse event, close that parenthesis, and then we need to put a colon and void. And now we're going to put a curly brace, after it, we're going to put a curly brace. And then notice when I hit enter or return, it closes that. Make sure you have that closing curly brace. And now we need to define this variable my name string. So we're going to go ahead and put my name equals, and we want to put the instance name of this input. So this input is username with a under or a lowercase u and a capital N. So we're going to go back to this ActionScript and put user name dot text and then a semicolon. For this one, we're going to put go to and stop, and we're going to put the frame label of where we want it to go. So I just usually close that. I usually close that quote immediately before I actually put the frame label. So down here, the frame label was instructions screen. So going back to that ActionScript, we're going to say when this instructions button is clicked, it's going to perform this function, which is go to and stop at the instructions screen. Okay, so here we have put the variable of my name and we told it what kind of data to expect, and then we've defined that my name is going to get its data from this input text box with the instance name of username, and that it's going to be text that's being input into that. All right, so this is all the script that you need for this particular screen. So let's go back to our instructions screen. And remember, we have this dynamic text box and it has instructions user here and it has a play button. So we need to go ahead and add some ActionScript here. Now, you're probably wondering why we didn't have to put stop, like why is it not moving when it gets here? But remember, every time they click the button, it's going to go to and stop at a certain frame. So when I say it goes to and stops here, it's actually going to stop and it's not going to keep looping or playing that timeline. There's other functions you can add where you can say click to go to and play, so that it'll go to this frame and then play it. But in this instance, that doesn't work for me. So all right, so up here, what we need to do is we're going to say our dynamic text, so instructions user. This is the instance name of that dynamic text box. You can see it here. The instruction user is going to have return text, so it's going to return text back to people. Now, the punctuation here really, really matters. So I'm going to put a quote, and I'm going to put welcome space and then end quote, because I want to say welcome whatever their username is. So I'm going to put plus my name. So we got that my name again back here. That was the variable that we called. All right, so we're going to say welcome space whatever their new name is, their username. And then we can come out here and put another quote and put an exclamation point, so it'll be like welcome Jessica and have an exclamation punctuation after that. I think I called it exclamation quote. That's not right, but you get what I'm saying. So the planets have all been mixed up. You have to fix them before NASA finds out. Good luck, astronaut. And then we can again space quote plus sign my name and then plus sign, and I just messed that one up. You need a little space right there. And then again, I'm going to put quote, exclamation point, quote again, and then to end the statement, a semicolon. So anytime you have text that you want it to return, it should be in quotes. And then anytime you want the username to appear, it should have this plus space, my name space plus. And then again, quote, this is ending the exclamation point for welcome the username. The planets, blah, blah, blah. There's the instruction. Again, we have a space and then their username and then another exclamation point. Okay. So now we just need to make our button function. So if I click on this play button, it's got to have an instance name, which I don't have. So good thing I checked that. All right. So back here, we're going to tell it play button should function, and we're going to cheat and go to code snippets. And we are going to do ActionScript, timeline, click to go to frame and stop. So if I double click, well, I'm going to go ahead and click on that button and then double click on that. It's going to add that function in there for me, which is awesome. So it's doing the same thing, play button add event listener. When it hears a click, it's going to perform this function. Notice that this function name is exactly the same as this function name, and it says an _4 because I've used it several times in my project. So, and it doesn't say _3 because I've used _3 in a previous tutorial video, and then I messed up that video, and then I had to make another one. So it like keeps track. So I technically have only used it once, twice, and then a third time, but because I've used it before and it remembers that, then it puts _4. So don't freak out about that. You just want to make sure that it doesn't have the same name as any other function like it, and that these two are matching up. Okay, so this is going to perform this function, and what is going to happen? Well, we want it to go to and stop, and again, we can choose the frame number of 175, or we can choose the frame label. So looking at this frame label, it's play SEQ, and then we can put that in here. So quote, quote, oops, it's not letting me do it. Okay, so quote, quote, and then come in here, play SEQ. All right, so now this should function. We can go ahead and test it out. I'm going to hit File, Save, and then do Command Return or Control Enter on a PC to see if this works. So loud. Okay, so there's my intro. Now I can click to start, and then I can type in my username, and it's working. If you see missing letters and it's not typing correctly, then you haven't embedded your font. If you do type in here and it types but you don't see it, it might be that your font is white. So make sure that you fix that. So I don't really like that there's this whole gap here, so I might change this font to be a different size. But there we go. So now I'm going to click instructions, and it's going to give me this error, and it says, okay, frame label instruction screen not found in scene 1. So make sure that you're always looking at these outputs, and sometimes it doesn't tell you like the right frame that it's on, but it tries to give you a hint. So it's saying in my code, instruction screen is not found. So I'm going to click here, and it says look for go to and stop on instructions screen. If I come here, ooh, see, I put instructions screen. So I'm going to put instructions, close this, and then save it. Now file save or Command or Control S, and then Command Return or Control Enter. All right, start. We're going to test this again. Click instructions. Good. Welcome, Jessica. That's a little bit weird. So that's going to take a little bit of tweaking and see what's happening with that. I might need to change like my font size for that, but if not, I can just get rid of that and, try to figure it out from there. But notice that I put my name Jessica, and so now it's saying Jessica, and it's saying Jessica here as well. So the dynamic text is working. So I can mess with the font size and spacing and all that good stuff. Play now, and it's going to take me to my game, and then the next thing I need to do is do some drag and drop script to be able to play the game. So it is returning it. The input is working. I'm not getting any more errors, and all my fonts are embedded. So that's how you work with input and dynamic text to ask for a username and then have it returned back to them using dynamic text.